Hey, this is Randy, and thank you for listening to the show. And just like an all-star break, we're taking a break from our season as well. So through the month of August, we'll be reaching into our highlight reels and playing our favorite and most popular shows. I think you're going to love them. But we'll be back in the month of September with a lineup of great new guests and incredible insights on running the bases with small businesses. So until then, enjoy today's show, and we'll see you around the ballpark. I'm Randy Rohde, and I'm fascinated with entrepreneurs and small business owners. Plus, I love baseball. Every show, I sit down with a small business owner, and we discuss their running the bases of entrepreneurship. We throw the ball around on strategy, management, execution, and innovation. Plus, a little fun baseball talk. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Settle in, grab your Cracker Jacks, and you know what they say.
Play ball.
And it's a great day for a ball game and a beautiful summer day. It's so excited to have our guest with us today. He has worn many, many hats in the small business entrepreneurial world. He grew up in a family printing business in the Philadelphia area, kind of a South Jersey boy. After graduating from high school, he enlisted in the Marines, and from returning to service, he joined the family business, eventually branching out, owning his own business. And printing and understanding that changing industry, he sold that business, launched right into another business in real estate, blew that thing up, rental properties, buying, flipping, selling homes. Height of his career, he was one of the top 5 RE/MAX real estate teams in the state of New Jersey and owned over 300 rental properties. I can't even imagine. As many people from the Northeast do, he fled the snow, landed in Tampa, and that's where we find him today. He has taken all of that business knowledge, channeled it into his latest passion. He's written a book. He's a public speaker, currently the director of business development for Credit Suite. So welcome, Steve Wible. Glad to have you on the show. That is a heck of an introduction, man. You have...
I was just sitting there thinking, wow, who is this guy? Hey, I'm just happy to be in the lineup.
There you go. You're like, man, this guy's good. Who is that guy? Well, listen,
I need you to travel with me from now on. Introduce me everywhere.
Hey, there you go. You bet. I'm good for hiring out. Hey, before we get too deep, though, I do want to say, hey, thank you for your service in the Marines and for serving the country. I absolutely appreciate that. How long were you in the Marines? By
4 years. I did 4 years and said they just don't pay enough.
Yeah. Well, that could be. So is that something, did you always kind of want to be in the Marines when you were?
No. The irony of it is, Randy, as you said, I worked for my father, right? He'd been in the industry his whole life. His father was in it. I can't even remember the situation, but we got into an argument at work. And I was 18 years old. I thought I knew everything, obviously, right? And
that's all right. And my 15-year-old son thinks he knows everything.
Right. And I live with my parents, so I get an argument. They got to imagine I'm working all day with my family, and then I go home and live with them, right? Get an argument. I get fired or I quit. I can't remember what happened. Don't want to even go to the dinner table at that point. 3 days later, my father said, hey, why don't you come back to work? I said, sorry. Being the hard-headed person I am, I went right to the Marine Corps recruiter, signed up, said, when can I leave? Friday.
Wow.
And so I never really thought about it. However, I had some influence because in my class, and we didn't have a large class, we only had 100 people graduate from high school. 20 of the men joined the Marine Corps.
No kidding.
20 of them. So it was kind of just everybody else is going, I might as well go too.
Wow, well, that's terrific.
That's how I ended up. So no, it wasn't a lifelong dream to be a Marine. It was a lifelong dream to be a millionaire.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, mine too. Hey, we're all working on that goal. All right. So listen, again, thanks for your service there. And I'm sure we could probably just have a whole podcast just about your experience in the Marines, but which would be fun to do. Maybe that'll be part 2 of the Steve and Randy show. So you come back from the Marines and you jump back into the family printing business. So the mom and dad welcome you, come on back, Steve. Thank you. And right.
Actually, I was back then was known as a typesetter.
Okay.
Right? So a typesetter, we worked on these big machines and we created type, right? We created the format. I know that sounds almost prehistoric to everybody working on computers today, but we didn't have computers then, right? So when I got back, they had obviously hired somebody to do that position. They weren't going to fire them just because son's home. I mean, that's unfair, right? My family has integrity. So I said to him, I'll never forget this. Hey, if I buy a suit, can I borrow your car? And I'll go out and I'll try selling. So he said, sure. I can't pay you anything. I'll just pay you a commission. Mm-hmm. Well, I went out and did $500,000 my first year at 10% commission.
Nice.
And I kind of got my feet wet. And I'm talking about, I called hand-to-hand combat sales. This is back in the day when you were going into businesses, cold talking to people, trying to get through the gatekeepers, right? We all know who the gatekeepers are. Right. And I cut my teeth in South Jersey, Philadelphia, and then eventually Manhattan. And I didn't understand finance that well. So I was just trying to sell as much as I possibly could, as quickly as I could, because I wanted to make a lot of money, right? Didn't understand that, businesses have to finance growth, right? And if they don't have the financing in place, what happens? Right? They can't produce, they lose the customer. I realized that my father's company couldn't quite handle what I was trying to get. I was trying to do millions and millions of dollars in sales. He was a small business, like every other small business, doing, I think, $500,000 at the time. So I went out on my own. Amicably. It wasn't like a negative. I just said, I'm going to go do this. I want to get into the higher end. Went to work for another company as a broker, made it maybe 6 months and realized, no, I don't need a boss. And then went out on my own. Partnered up with a gentleman. I was at that point 24. He was 65. Now, my reasoning behind that, and it's a little bit of advice I have to give, is at that point, I did know I knew nothing. Right? I understood that I didn't know anything about business. I understood sales. I was getting better at it. Yeah. He had run multiple companies, so he understood the business side. So I said, look, let's be partners. You could be president. I'll be vice president. I know the printing industry. He was just a good salesperson. And we built this company up to a large size and sold it. I mean, we did really well. I was fortunate enough that my son is an artist.
So I have to ask you this. So this is kind of interesting. So you jump out, you leave the family business, and not, so you didn't have the heated, hey, I'm leaving and joining the Marines kind of thing. So you went out friendly, but you eventually, were you a head-to-head competitor then with your?
No, that was the point. If they were a small business doing smaller work, I was looking for the big jobs, the $1 million+ jobs. All right. I was, dealing with Wall Street. Matter of fact, if you're old enough to remember, and I know you and I are roughly the same age, back in the day, Blue Cross Blue Shield had doctor directories, right? There were books that you would get if you had Blue Cross Blue Shield. They were $1 million+ jobs. That's the work I was looking for. Okay. Right. See, I wanted to work smart, not hard.
Yes. There you go.
Right. So I was not competing at all. Completely different customer base.
Got it. Which was great then for family dinners, right? So
yeah, it really wasn't. As a matter of fact, my dad ended up going into even a smaller version of like a copy center. Remember, he was one of the very first copy centers, print and copy center, real small, and did really well at that. So anyhow, we built the company up. My son at that time, well, he's 37 now, 36 now. So he was maybe 8. I would give him some of the old equipment. At this point, the Macs are now out. Remember when Macs were $15,000 to buy one, right? So I would give him, an old Mac that we had, or an outdated version of what we were using. And I watched him at 8 or 9 years old do something in Photoshop, and he built a page, like he did some artwork, and he did it in about 10 minutes. And I would have charged $10,000 for that job. And I went, my 8-year-old kid is producing something that I'm paying people $20, $30 an hour for. Right. We're in trouble. Yeah. We're in trouble. 8-year-olds can do this now. Right. Yeah. And then the internet, of course, was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It was out, but we were still using faxes. Sure. Right. Fax machines. So I started thinking, oh my God, if we can transfer digital files around the world, I'm going to be competing with China soon. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't compete with China. And I found out we'd been on a major sports team's yearbook in Philadelphia, and the job was close to $1 million for us. Our paper was about $500,000. They got a price from China of $500,000. I couldn't touch it. Right. I said, "That's it. We're done. Yeah. Let's sell the company."
Yeah. So you saw the writing on the wall.
Saw the writing on the wall, and it was all because of my son was so good at what and to this day he's still an artist.
Wow. Good for him. So
it gave me, it was the first time I've ever made the right decision in advance.
in advance. That is critical. So you had some great foresight. You saw kind of what was coming around the corner at that. And then you jump into I'll say kind of a completely new line of business, which is in real estate. And I want to get into that. Before we do, though, I want to talk about really what you're doing today, which is with Credit Suite. So you're a long way from South Jersey right now. You're living the life in Tampa. We probably have like kind of the same weather today. I don't know. It's about 80 and humid here. It's probably about that. I would imagine maybe a little warmer there in Tampa. So you've taken, you've got years of this experience of working in business, sales, managing businesses, growing businesses, selling businesses. You've taken that knowledge in your entrepreneurial life. You've channeled it into your current world, coaching and training small business owners about business credit, helping them grow their businesses and building a credit profile. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's another wow, that's a great departure. And don't kind of sell the backstory on the real estate yet, but tell us about what you're doing today. This is, I think, pretty exciting.
So I was fortunate enough to meet Ty Crandall, our CEO, and he had this company where he was teaching people about business credit. Now, in my world, in my father's world, in any manufacturing world, without business credit, you don't survive, right? You need suppliers to give you credit in order for you to give your customers credit, right? So we're all passing terms around with each other. And that was just a normal course of business for me. I understood how that worked. I knew what a D&B profile was when I was 19 years old. I didn't realize that wasn't normal to the rest of the business world. I just assumed everybody operated that way. So when I saw what he was teaching, I went, yeah, this is a need. This is cutting edge. Even though it's been around 100 years, it's cutting edge because today everybody's, it's a digital world. Everybody's a sole proprietor, or they're consultants, or they have these online businesses, or whatever. They didn't grow up in manufacturing. Manufacturing in the United States has not been there for a long time, right? So I said, hey, I'd love to come work for you. Keep in mind, I've never had a job except my father. The Marine Corps, and that little short stint with that one company. I've always been self-employed, so I applied for a job, and my resume must have looked ridiculous. President, right? And Ty, in his infinite wisdom, turned me down. Nope, not going to hire you. So I said, okay, it is what it is. Anyway, they called me back about a month later and said, yeah, you know what? We actually thought about it. We'd love to have you come on board. At this time, keep in mind, I didn't know what a webinar was. Never heard of it. Right. I was a hand-to-hand combat salesperson, face-to-face, right? Didn't know what a podcast was, didn't know anything about the digital world. But I knew the product. I knew what business credit was. I understood how important it was. And what it really is protecting small business owners from devastation, literally devastation. Anybody who's lived through that real estate crash knows what it's like when your business is humming along and boom, it's gone.
Right.
You're out of business. Right. So business, what people don't realize is that business can actually have its own profile, its own credit profile. Just like you and I have a credit profile with our social security number. If you have an LLC on up, sole proprietor doesn't work. You can actually have a business credit profile. You can get credit that's tied to the company only, not tied to you.
Right.
So God forbid something happens to you, your family's not at risk of having to cover all this debt that the business generates. And let's be honest, businesses consume way more than consumers do, way more, right? So a telemarketing firm is going to buy 50 computers. When's the last time you bought 50 computers, right? So truckers, they buy tens of thousands of dollars or thousands of dollars in fuel every single month. You and I have never spent $10,000 on fuel, right, in 1 month.
Yeah.
So all of these consumables, I'll call them, people use personal credit cards to buy, and they don't have to. They can actually get a business credit card. And here's the problem. These lenders and creditors understand that they're on the hook, they're at risk because they're not tying up anybody personally.
Right.
So because of that, they're really, really careful with who they approve. And it starts off with them looking at your business deeply. In other words, is it a real business? And some of this stuff is going to sound ridiculous, Randy, but in today's day and age, I think you're going to agree with me that a lot of small business owners start off this way. One of the first things that lenders look at is your email. Mm-hmm. Your email. Mm-hmm. If your email is, I have a business at gmail.com, you do not have a business. You have a hobby.
That's funny.
Right?
So because as a digital marketer with our agency, we get all different types of clients that come in our door. And that actually is one of the first things that we even do from them. If they're just still kind of operating on a Gmail, like, listen, we need to get you a branded email.
Yes.
So that it is steve@mybusiness.com. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's probably 90% of the business owners I talk to. And some of them have, $1 million+ businesses, and they're still operating at,
Right. Yeah.
Steven sells homes,
Right.
or whatever.
At Gmail. Right.
So that's the first thing they look for. And keep in mind, this is fraud detection. What they're really
Right.
looking for is fraud detection. Okay. And then they're going to look at their phone number and I'm going to give you a hint. What do you think most people use for their business phone?
Yeah, exactly.
Their cell phone. And that's not a real business number to a lender. That's a cell phone, right? You need to have a real business phone number. Problem is, most people don't want to put a phone on their desk. They don't want to put a phone on their wall, and we understand that. But they can get something called a voice over IP, which I know you're familiar with.
Yep.
That forwards to their cell. Get an 800 number.
Yep.
Go to a company like Ring Central or Grasshopper, not Google Voice.
Yep.
Google Voice is the right street. You're just going the wrong direction. Google Voice. Matter of fact, you're skipping second base. You're going from first to third, right? Google Voice, they own that number. It's free to let you use it,
right?
But it's not yours. You can't list that in the National 401 directory. Do you remember when you were younger? When you and I were younger, you could pick up the phone on the wall and you dialed, and I mean dialed
Yes.
411,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right? And you asked for Joe's Pizza or Tom's,
right.
whatever. They would connect you, give you the number, and connect you. That database still exists today. It's digital.
That's funny you even say that, because I think even like a couple of weeks ago, maybe I was asking my wife, we were talking with the kids about something. I'm like, I don't even know if that even works anymore, 411.
It does. It's the database still exists. And artificial intelligence checks that to see if you're really in business. If you're not listed there, it's potential fraud. It's a red flag. Now, that's just 2 items. There are 137 items they look for. That's 2. I always like to give out the top 5, which would be that, your address. Don't use a P.O. box for a business address. Don't ever use a P.O. box. Looks like fraud. Have a real address. If not, have a virtual address. If not, use your home address. Don't use a P.O. box or a UPS box or Staples store. I think they now give you boxes there, right. Business addresses. And then, then there's some real basics like have a business checking account. Don't run it through your personal account. I mean, right. that's a red flag to the IRS. Yeah, forget the lenders.
Yeah.
And then your DUNS number. Most people don't understand what a DUNS number is or how to get it. It's Dun & Bradstreet's identification number.
Yeah, to dig into that or explain that just quickly.
Yeah.
So you said a DUNS number.
Yeah, DUNS, DUNS.
Yes.
So Dun & Bradstreet's been around forever, literally forever, since the founding of this country almost.
Right.
And they issue a number to every business owner in the world. That's not just American-based. It's an international number. They're required to give it to you. Right? They have to give you that number. It's free, 100% free. They'll try to monetize it every time. They'll try to sell you something, but it's free. And you can go to dnb.com, davidnancyboy.com, apply for your number. First thing I would do is search your name, though, because if you've been in business over a year, the odds are you have a number, you just don't know about it. And the good news is, in today's day and age, with it being digital, if you find your name, click on it, there's a button that says, email me my DUNS number. And they'll email it to you. If you don't, just go ahead and apply. It's real easy to do. It's free. You're going to get your DUNS number. Lenders will check to see if you have a Dun & Bradstreet file.
Okay.
So that's just the beginning, but here's the bad news. I got bad news.
Dun.
If you don't have anything reporting at all in your business credit report, and that's Experian, Dun & Bradstreet, and Equifax, if you have nothing reporting at all, no negatives, no positives. There's just nothing.
Just no history.
They give you a failing grade, and they actually put in writing potential to be out of business in the next 12 months. Right on your credit report. Now, people are like, "What? I didn't do anything wrong."
Right.
No, but it looks like you're not in business.
Right.
Because you're obviously not buying anything from anybody. You're not getting credit from anybody. Nobody's reporting anything about you. It's a warning sign to other people. And here's something else that's bad news. Everyone can pull your business credit report. I don't need your permission. It's not like personal credit.
Right.
If I want to pay $50 to Dun & Bradstreet, I can pull your business credit report. I can see exactly what's on there, what your paydex score is. As a matter of fact, I encourage customers to do that all the time. If you're going to do business with a company, pull their D&B report. See if they pay their bills. Because if they don't pay their bills, what are the odds they're going to do a good job for you?
Sure.
Right? If they're not paying their suppliers, then maybe the supply chain gets broken and your job never gets finished.
Good advice.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyhow, the good news is if you have one thing reporting in your business credit profile, just one, you go from a failing grade to a passing grade instantly.
No kidding.
Instantly.
Wow.
Instantly. One thing. Matter of fact, I'll even give away one free vendor to everybody if you're interested in me giving it away.
Yeah.
Where even a startup can get approved there.
Yeah.
Go to uline.com, uline.com. Apply for terms. They're going to give you what's called net 30 terms. I know you're familiar with that term, but I'm going to explain it in case some of your listeners are not. That basically means you're going to buy a product from them. They're going to ship it to you. They're going to send you an invoice, either digitally or on paper, and you have 30 days to pay that. I recommend you don't pay it day one. You wait 2 to 3 weeks to pay it. Because if you pay it in one day, it looks like a cash transaction. Right. It's no longer credit. And then they'll report that on both D&B and Experian. So now you suddenly get a trade line on both. Here's where people get confused, though. When you pull your credit report, you're not going to see Uline on there. You will see packaging supplier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would they not put the name of the company? Does that make any sense, Randy? Like if I put my personal credit.
I'm wondering. I'm kind of curious as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, sure. Because if you pull your personal credit report, if you have a Capital One, it says Capital One. Right. If you have a mortgage with Freedom Mortgage, it says Freedom Mortgage. The reason they don't do that is going to make complete sense. So I'm going to go back. I'm skipping back over real estate, back into the printing industry. Okay. So I was buying millions of dollars in paper. Right. My competitors wanted to know who I was buying from. Now they knew who I was buying from. They just weren't sure.
Got it.
Right. Well, when you pulled my D&B report, it said paper supplier. Well, I don't want my competitors to know who I'm buying my paper from, right? Because I'm getting a great deal. And remember, it's public information. Anybody can pull your credit report. So they'll never report the name of the company. They'll just report the type of industry or the product they sell. So Staples would say office supplies.
And when they do that, there's no identifier code or number with that, like paper supplier XYZ 291 or something. So that I could
There's no way for them to know.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And it would make sense because look, everybody in the printing industry, we all knew each other. Right. As a matter of fact, all of our buildings were usually within 3 miles of each other. There was one big park in Pensacola, New Jersey. It was all printing companies. We all knew who we were. Yeah. That's how we recruit. That's how we stole each other's salespeople.
Trying to around the block. Hey, let's go have lunch.
But anyway, so what I love, and full circle, that's what I love about this company. They're teaching business owners how to build that profile. It's a game changer. Yeah. I mean, instead of buying your vehicles in your name, buy in the company name. Let the company get the financing for that. What that does is two things. It protects your personal credit, but in addition, business owners find their personal credit scores skyrocket because they stop using it.
Oh, yeah.
So the utilization rate goes down. When your utilization rate goes down, your score goes up.
Score goes up.
Right? Now you've got, let's say, great personal credit and great business credit. Now when it's time for an SBA loan, it's a cakewalk.
Right.
It's an absolute cakewalk. Easy to get an SBA loan. People think it's the hardest loan to get. It's one of the easiest loans to get. The reason most people don't get it is because when the SBA looks at your fundability wheel, we call it, there's 1/4 of the pie missing. No business credit. Right. There's nothing there. So if there's nothing there, they have to dive into your personal credit deeper. Well, I don't care who you are. If they're going to dive in deeper, they're going to find something wrong. Right? You didn't pay a bill when you were 19.
Right.
This is whatever.
It's going to surface.
So anyway, that's what I love about this company. I get really excited and I go off on a tangent on this stuff.
I love the passion of it that you bring out. And I do want to get in and I want to touch on this a little bit more as well, just about maybe if you have some tips on people of how they build a better portfolio, right, of that business credit. So, but before we get into that, I do want to let our listeners know, Steve has been very gracious with his offering time that he is offering a free consultation to discuss kind of business credit and not talking about your credit but just saying, hey, here's some things you may want to consider kind of thing from a consultation. Also, and we're going to talk about this, but Steve also has a book that he has written called The Business Credit, the complete step-by-step guide, and that will be both the link for the free consultation as well as a link to the book will be in our show notes. So please go to that. I want to be sure we get that stuff out there so that people, because you've been dropping just knowledge bombs here, Steve. So I want to, that's all good, right? I'm
hitting homers, baby.
You are, baby, man. You're hitting dingers. I want to be sure that people know how they can take some action on this stuff. And speaking of dingers, Steve, do you like baseball?
Love baseball.
Love baseball.
Lunatic baseball fan.
Oh, there
Played
you
baseball. Go. I was a catcher because they wouldn't let me be pitcher.
There you go.
And I had to be involved in every pitch.
Love it. Well, this is kind of this time of the show that we call the 7th inning stretch.
And it's time for the 7th inning stretch.
All right. So, Steven, this is where I get the opportunity to ask you a nice little question about baseball. All right. And I promise it won't be too hard, but if you're a lunatic in baseball, maybe this the question I have might be a little bit too
I just
easy
set myself up to fail, didn't I?
Yeah, but I know. So almost any person I know that grew up in Philadelphia is like just a rabid Phillies fan. I mean, you guys are.
Yep.
You're as loyal as my Cubby fan cohorts. That
we say Chicago is Philadelphia West.
Yeah.
That's what we used to say.
Yeah. So I've been a Cubs fan my entire life and live and die Cubby blue, and I'm sure you do the same with your Phillies. As a matter of fact, and so we just pulled back one of our players, Jake Arrieta, back from you guys.
Yep.
And he's doing well. I thought I was a little concerned by that, but yeah, I was a big fan of Jake when he was with the Cubs, and was sorry to see him go. But anyway, that's a little deeper into baseball. So here we are. So the Philadelphia Phillies, one of the original 16 teams in baseball, formed 1883, right? So this is an old team. As a matter of fact, they were one of the last original 16 teams to win the World Series. They were the last, actually. Not to rub that in at all, Steve. So, but here's your question. See if you know this. By the way, they won the World Series in 1980. Great team. Mike Schmidt. Had an Ohio boy on there. Pete Rose was toward the tail end of his career, but went to won some series rings with Cincinnati, but then went to Philly and helped you guys win one.
He was the key.
He was the dude. So the Phillies, through their long tenure of history, have actually had 4 names or nicknames. One, instant, right? The Phillies. Well,
right.
Of course. So that's one. And actually, by the way, the name the Phillies is one of the longest continually used nicknames in professional sports by a team in the same city. So you got that going for you with
that's true. That's true.
All right. So your question: can you name the 4 names? That the Phillies.
Wow, okay,
so one is the Phillies.
We got the Athletics that moved out west, right? It was the Philadelphia Athletics.
No.
So that's right, because that was AL versus the N. That's right.
Yes. So that's now.
Wow. Hold on.
Sorry, I just shot you. I was like, strike.
I'm like the Phils, obviously.
The Phillies, yeah.
Phils. No, you got me. You struck me out on this one, man. And I've been following the Phillies since 1976.
Man, all right. So here you go. So when they first started, they were called the Quakers.
Oh my God, you're right.
In 1883, when they were formed, they were called the Quakers. That didn't last too long. 1884, they changed it to the Philadelphias. And shortly thereafter, it got shortened by the newspapers because it was too long to print. Printer, right?
Right.
It was like, it takes too much paper. And so the newspapers started shortening the Philadelphias to the Phillies. And then at some point in the late 80s, that stuck and it became the Phillies. That's what they officially became. And then, see if you know this history, in the late 1940s, the DuPont heir, Robert Carpenter, bought the team.
Right,
and he wanted to change the name to the Blue Jays. And I
remember that, but they didn't do it.
No, they didn't officially. So this is why Phillies is still the longest running. So I thought this was kind of a funny story. So he wanted to change the names because he kind of liked the scrappy qualities of the Blue Jay or something like that. They still had the Phillies on the jerseys, and they still called them the Phillies, but they put a Blue Jay on the jersey on the sleeve, and he was like trying to hey, we're the Philadelphia Blue Jays. But somebody from actually it was the student council at Johns Hopkins University, Their varsity teams are known as the Blue Jays. They protested Carpenter and the Phillies about the name because at that time, the Phillies were horrible, a horrible team, and they felt that claiming that name dishonored
their team,
the Hopkins team. And so at the beginning of 1950, in January 1950, that Blue Jays thing was officially dropped, and they just stuck with the Phillies. And but officially, it's been the Phillies really since the late 1880s. So.
You made me break out Google on that one.
Yeah,
and it's funny. I knew the Quakers. It's just been so long. Look, when I was 12, I collected baseball cards. I knew everything about baseball.
Yeah.
You know, in my 50s, I can barely remember when my wife's birthday.
Yeah, that's it.
But hey, you stumped me. That's awesome. I'm definitely bringing that up the next time I talk to my brother.
Hey, there you go. All right. Well, let's get back into it.
Play ball.
All right, so I kind of promised we're going to talk a little bit about your real estate experience. I cannot even believe that at one point you had 300 rental properties.
Yeah, I can't either.
I mean, it was an incredible enterprise.
Well, it was, best way I can put it is that I tried to take real estate investing and make it like manufacturing. So I tried to put systems in place that made it easy.
Right.
So I focused on one area and one type of home. It was always row homes, always. If you know what a row home is, I know Chicagoans know what a row home is. If you grew up in the Northeast, you know that's the cities typically have row homes, houses that are connected to each other. There's 20 in a block.
Right. Now, was this in Philly, Jersey? Where was this?
Philadelphia and Camden, New Jersey.
Right.
So what I realized pretty quickly is they were all the same, basically. So I could figure out what the cost of rehab was in 30 seconds. I knew what a heater cost. I knew what a water heater cost.
Yeah, you could walk in and like going, okay, ching, ching, ching. This is, 15 grand. We're going to drop into this.
Right. Once I did 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of them, and I noticed the price kept coming in the same over and over. I'm like, this is scalable.
Right.
I don't need a whole lot of time. I don't even have to be the one to make the decision. I can send somebody else out to look at it. And as long as these check marks are there, I know what it's going to cost. So it made it real easy. So I tried to turn it into a scalable product, which we did. And then we started getting a reputation for doing a real good job with them. In other words, we were putting in granite when nobody else was doing it. We were trying to make these rental properties like a homeowner would want them, which means there was high demand, right? And when there's high demand, you get higher prices. It just made sense.
Right.
So we leveraged everything we had and our business credit as well to be able to scale up to that point. And we did it pretty quickly. It didn't take a lot of time. And we were really having a good time. Then 08 hit.
Yeah, 08.
08.
Yeah.
Somebody unplugged the machine.
Unplugged the ATM.
Oh, it was unbelievable. But everybody should have a couple of years like I had.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Good.
And to this day, I still get thank yous from tenants because we treated them so well. We made deals where the tenants, when things crashed and burned around us, we made deals with the bank so the tenants could stay.
Good.
For up to 2 years. I mean, it was an interesting time, but that's kind of the end of the story, not the beginning of the story, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we're in the 9th inning. In the first inning, what happened was I sold the printing company. Yeah. And didn't know what to do. What do you do at that young age? I don't have enough to retire, but not worried about getting a job either. And my brother, actually, I have to give credit to my brother Jeff. He owned at that point, I think 4 or 5 properties, 4 or 5 rentals, and he was a young kid. I mean, he was young. And he was bringing in a couple grand a month in income residual. And he was like, this is easy. So I went into his house and we sat in his kitchen and he showed me what he does and, showed me the checks to prove it, proof. And back then you found properties by looking in the newspaper. Right. Can you imagine? Yeah. Looking in the newspaper. So we saw an ad. Somebody was selling 3 investment properties in Camden. And I want to say it was $75,000 or $80,000 for these
for
three
the 3
properties. Yeah, or 90,000, whatever it was. I said, well, let's call them. Let's call them up, set an appointment to go see them. We met these 2 nice gentlemen. They were in their 60s. They were looking to retire. So as soon as I heard that word retire, I said, wait, how many more do you have? Well, we have 38. Oh. Can I see them all? Well, yeah. And we drove around. We looked at all of them. Some were empty. Some were rented. I made them an offer for all 38. And I think I ended up getting them for $12,000 each. Wow. 12.5. They were originally asking 30, 35, whatever it was per.
Right.
Now I had to find out where I was going to get the money.
That was my next question.
I gave him a check for a deposit, and they laughed, and my brother goes, "What are you doing? How are we going to close? You got 3 weeks to close. What are we going to do?" Well, I didn't know anything about hard money, never even heard of it, didn't know anything about real. I knew nothing. Just jump in. Hey, if you're going to get wet, just get in.
Yeah, right.
So I found a company that funded the deal, funded the construction, and then I immediately took 18 of those properties and sold them immediately for what I paid for all 36. So now I'm in for free. I've got 18 properties with none of my money invested.
Right.
Fixed them up, sold them. And I kept a couple, but sold most of them. Took that cash and then just started going on a buying spree. Because now the hard money company trusted me. They knew I knew what I was doing.
Right.
And that's when we figured it out. And it got to the point where we opened an office. And
so
people would just come
when
to our
was
office.
that? So what year did you start doing that?
2002.
Okay.
2001, 2002.
Right. So you had like a good 5-6 year run. Yeah.
Oh, I had a nice little run. Yeah, I had a good time. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't listen to the smartest person in the room, my wife.
Always. They always are. I don't care how smart I think I am. My wife is always.
Their instincts are just, man, deadly. Like they just cut right through it.
Yes.
Dead center. So my goal at that time, because I was young and aggressive and whatever, was to own a high rise in Philadelphia. I wanted to put my name on a building. That was my ego, by the way. That wasn't like a financial goal.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm like, man, brother, I never had that dream ever.
Yeah, that was ego. So I began leveraging, and I started buying outside of my comfort zone. In other words, I wasn't doing row houses. Now I'm going out in the suburbs, buying single family 2,500 square foot homes. Then I'm down in farmland. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, is the reality of it. And even that would have been survivable if at the same time the market hadn't crashed.
Right.
With 35 properties under construction, no way to sell them.
Yeah.
I'm upside down almost immediately.
Yeah. And for those, I had another company that we were running and that needed credit as well in order for our clients to buy. 2008 hit and the credit market completely dried up. As people, I'm sure the people that have lived through that as a business owner, you understand that. But privately, it was incredibly difficult to get credit. And for businesses that needed, as you talk about, kind of cash flow and the need to be able to have credit in order to buy services or raw materials in order to deliver to clients of produce, it became incredibly difficult. I can't even imagine in your world, in the midst of construction, and you are constantly living essentially on a credit flow.
Well, worse, they called in all the notes.
Sure.
And in addition to that, you got a picture with that many rental properties. Every month there was X amount of leases that were renewing.
Right.
Well, there's something in the Section 8 world called fair market rent, FMR. And they base the rental based on what the prevailing market is, obviously, right? Makes sense. Right. So the government doesn't get ripped off. Well, that kept plunging, kept going down and down and down and down and down. And I kept thinking, this has got to end at some point, right? And my rents were probably half of what I was collecting even 2 years earlier. But now the problem is I've leveraged these properties. Sure. So now instead of collecting profit, I'm writing checks every month. And even if it's only $200-$300 per property times 300, that number gets a little big. Yeah. Quickly. So what I didn't want to do was, you always want to do the right thing. Always. What I didn't want to do is what I saw a lot of people doing, which was collecting the rent, not paying their mortgage. And just, oh, well. I couldn't do that because what I didn't want to see was a sheriff show up at somebody's door, some family's door, and kick them out at Christmas because I did the wrong thing. Right. So I did everything I could to keep paying it. Then I finally assigned the rents to the mortgage companies. I did what I had to do to make sure everything went the right way for them. Walked away with nothing, literally with zero. But you know what else I walked away with? Clean credit.
Nice. Good for you.
You know why? Nothing was in my name. It was all in the business name. And that's why I tell that story so people understand. Look, there's an upside to business credit, but there's also a downside that can hit, and you've got to be prepared for that. So it didn't take me long to build right back up to where I'm sitting in a solid position financially. I have really good personal credit. I don't have any of those issues that normally people would have if they lost 300 properties.
Right.
Right. So that's why I guess I'm so passionate. When I start talking about business credit, I get so passionate because I understand both sides of that coin. You can get extremely high limit credit, but also if things go bad, and legitimately things go bad, now you just chose not to pay your bills. I'm talking about if the world comes crashing down, that's okay. You can still start over again because you haven't been destroyed, and I didn't have to file bankruptcy. I didn't do any of those things that most people do. So that's why I'm so passionate about business credit. And this is why every business owner needs to build their business credit profile. I don't care if you're doing 50 million. Actually, once you hit 50 million, you're kind of an institutional borrower. Right. It's pretty easy for you. Walmart has no problem getting credit, right? But those of us out there fighting the good fight, right? Those of us with the shovel in our hands, we need that credit to build our business. If I go into business again, and who knows, I may never do it, but I doubt it. Someday I'll probably open another business. The very first thing I'm going to do is build my business credit profile. Right. I want to be ready for that.
You walked away with that with such a valuable experience that now you can provide to folks that you're consulting with and having these meetings about building a credit profile. I mean, you've taken the trip around the bases. I mean, you are the grizzled veteran on in this particular arena and in that ballpark. And wow.
Well, it's funny when I got hired. I'll save this But when I got hired, I was asked if I wanted to do a webinar because you could hear me talking to clients, right? And my stories. I told you I love to tell stories. And I was asked if I wanted to do a webinar. I said, sure. What's a webinar? I had no idea. No idea what a webinar was. And my CEO said, here's how you do it. Da, da, da. I had so much fun. I'm like, can I do another one? Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm out speaking on stage. I'm doing podcasts. I'm like, well, I had no idea. And my brother, one of my brothers, said to me, "What are you talking about? We all knew you were going to be like this. You never shut up."
Well, yeah, that's good. So listen, I want to step back now into this credit and where I was asking you before the seventh inning anyway, if you've got a couple of nuggets maybe that you could share. So early, before we jumped into that, you were talking about how people can begin to establish essentially that credit profile anyway, at least establish it, right? What are some things then, like some good practical kind of things that a business owner can do to really kind of begin to build that credit profile?
Well, those fundability factors are of utmost importance. If you don't get that straight, you'll never get out of the gate. You'll never get into the lineup. You'll never get your first at bat. Okay. You've got to get that straight. You got to get your uniform on right. Got to get those cleats tied up. Right.
I like, you're just full of the baseball jargon here. That's good.
So you've got to get your fundability factors going right. Your business has to look good to a lender or a creditor. Okay. If you're not sure how to do that, you can always reach out to me. No big deal. But quickly, the top 5 are those 5 I went over. That's the email. Right. I didn't mention website, but it really is important because what's happening is lenders are looking for information on you, right? They're doing research on you. Why not be the one to give them the information?
Right.
Right. Have a website, be legit and don't let it look like you did it yourself. Have it look professional.
Yeah. Hire 38 Digital Market as.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Look at that
I had to
segue.
Go for the plug.
I didn't even mean to throw you that softball. But it's really important because I talk to business owners all the time and they don't have a website. Now, if you think, hey, well, I don't really need a website for my business, who cares? Have an informational website. Right. Get somebody to put a website up. You need it. This is 2021, not 1991. Right. Everybody looks on Google. Yeah. Be findable. All right. So that's an important one. You've got to have that business phone number. That's super important. You go to listmenow.org and you can just list your phone number if you already have one. I prefer to see you have an 800 number. Okay. Because an 800 number is large, makes you look that much bigger, right? That much more legitimate. And obviously your checking account's important. Oh, here's a nugget. So you have something called a business checking account credit score, a bank account credit score. It's 1 through 5, and it's based on your average balance over 90 days.
Okay.
So 0 to 5,000, 5 to 25,000. They're not going to disclose what you have in the bank,
right?
But they rate you based on your average balance. If you can, try to always keep $10,000 in your bank account. Always, if you can. I understand
this is your business account.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Because when lenders check, if you have that particular bank credit score or better, you're more fundable. They're going to be more apt to give you credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's something that most business owners have no idea that lenders have access to.
Mm.
Oh, there's another nugget. If you're thinking about starting, if you happen to be listening to this and you're a baseball fan and you go, I think I'll start a business, don't buy a shelf corporation. Don't buy an existing corporation. It's a scam.
Mm.
Okay. Back in the day, before they had all this digital access, yeah, you could have gotten away with it because it takes a lot of legwork to see how long you've really been in business, right? Now, it takes a tenth of a second to know when you opened your bank account, when your business was really registered. I've had people get denied for credit and they can't figure out why. Then their account gets marked as fraud because they opened their business in, let's say, 2005, didn't open their bank account till 2010. They claim they've been in business since 2005. No, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not generating revenue, you're not in business, right? You're formulating a business. You're not in business, right? So if you're about to open a business, open your bank account within 30 days. Do it in the same fiscal year or calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's another big mistake I see. And if you get marked as fraud at any of the credit reporting agencies as potential fraud, you're done. There is no Fair Credit Reporting Act for business credit.
And you can't fix that. I mean, you can't erase it.
It's almost impossible.
Even after the point when you're starting to build positive history, meaning that, like the example that you gave before, go open a Uline account, order a ream of paper, wait 2 weeks, pay it. You've established a good credit then on your business credit. You're doing that kind of repeatedly, but once you've had that flag, potential fraud, you can't.
It's difficult. Again, now they don't throw the word around fraud easily, right? So you'd had to have done a couple of things really wrong to be marked as a fraudulent account. Okay. So just if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Right? Don't buy a shelf corporation. Don't lie. If you lie, they're going to catch you. Right. Don't lie about your revenue, right? Because it's pretty easy. I'll give you a great example, Randy. So I apply for credit and I say I'm a truck driver. I'm an over-the-road truck driver. I'm an independent operator. I've got my LLC. And I apply for a gas card with, let's say, Shell, whoever. Right? And I get approved for $5,000. Then 3 months later, I apply for credit again with BP, British Petroleum. And I tell them my revenue is $150,000 a year, which is about average for an over-the-road trucker. And they look and they see the highest I've ever spent on gas is $100 because it shows that on your business credit report. What's the most amount you ever spent? Now, you're not an industry expert, Randy, but you started laughing immediately because if I only spent $100 on fuel in the last 3 months, am I really in business?
No.
Exactly. If I'm in the printing industry and I haven't bought any paper in 90 days, am I in business?
No.
Exactly. So I tell people don't lie because they can see right through it.
Right.
But what you spend tells other lenders whether you're in business or not. Right?
I didn't have any idea that your business credit information was so readily available to anybody who wanted to go peer into it.
I used to pull people's business credit reports when I was on podcasts, and then I had to stop because I was embarrassing everyone. So I just had to stop. I can't do this anymore. But I could search your company right now. It'd be pretty easy. I could pull up D&B, run a search. As a matter of fact, small plug, if you go to creditsuite.com/reports, you can get a free business credit report. You can look at your business credit report.
Nice.
Okay. It's free. Now, it's not free to pull it all the time. Just in that particular case, it is.
Right.
It's something we set up. Everyone should check their business credit report because there may be something there that you're unaware of and you can't figure out why your bank keeps turning you down. Well, they're going to pull your report. They're going to pull your personal credit too. Don't get me wrong, on a loan, on a cash loan, but they're going to pull your business credit report. And if there's nothing there and says your potential to be out of business in the next 12 months, why would you want that?
Yeah.
Why would you want that?
Yeah, that's a red flag.
It's crazy.
That would not be good.
One more nugget. D&B gives you something called a PAYDEX score. Okay. And this is where people get all confused. Okay. So we grew up.
What was that? PAYDEX?
PAYDEX. PAYDEX.
Okay.
PAYDEX score.
PAYDEX.
Okay. In other words, how do you pay your bills?
Got it.
All right. So you and I grew up, we went to school. We got every question right on a test. We got what? 100. Right? If we got an 80, we got a C. Well, in the business credit world, 80 is perfect. 80 is a perfect pay. 100 means you pay in advance. You discount. Okay. So in order to get an 80 PAYDEX score, you just got to pay your bills on time. But you can't generate a PAYDEX score until you have at least 3 trade lines reporting. Right. So you got to have the bases loaded to get a score.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah. So when you said you had to have three, what was that? The term?
Trade lines.
Trade lines, meaning
payment experiences.
Okay,
all right?
right.
So 3 different companies were willing to offer you credit, whether it's net 30 or revolving, doesn't matter. And just offering you that credit is not going to report. You have to use that credit.
Utilize that credit to some degree.
Hence payment experiences.
Got it.
They want to see that you paid it on time. And once you've done that at least for 3 different vendors, you'll generate a paydex score of 80. Okay. What banks look at is they want to see a 78 or better. Right. In other words, so they understand that as business owners, cash flow can be difficult sometimes, right? So sometimes instead of paying within the 30-day terms, you may have paid 45 days, right? You may have even paid 60 days. That's okay. That's not going to kill you. Okay. What they don't want to see is a paydex score of 40. It means you don't pay anybody. So that's one that most people are really unaware of. And if you ever want to do business with the U.S. government, a state government, or a county government, first thing they do is pull your Dun & Bradstreet file. Do you pay your bills? Right? They want to see if you're paying your vendors because they don't want to pay you and you not pay them and then have them put a lien on that. You know, do you understand?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. You've got me like, I'm like, hey, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go online and schedule a consult with Steve. Yeah. And again, just as a reminder, look at the show notes. You can find the link and schedule some time with Steve. So what do you think is around the corner, Steve, in the Steve world and in the kind of the credit world? Here we are, we're living in a very interesting time. You know, we got the inflation is on the rise. There's a lot of money, liquidity in the system. Don't know what that's going to do on from a credit standpoint, but kind of from your perspective, what do you see around the corner?
Okay, well, what do I see or what I hope to see? I'll tell you what I hope to see, and I think this is going to happen.
Okay.
I would like to see our supply chain become a little more domesticated.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I am extremely concerned with, I understand real estate and I understand manufacturing, and I'm watching prices of homes skyrocket, and it's not simply demand, it's also supply chain issues. Right. So go buy a sheet of lumber. It's like people talk about buying gold, buy lumber.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that they're charging $70 to $80 for a sheet of plywood.
Yes. And
that's because it's not coming from here. It lands from a ship every day. Right. So I'm a lot concerned about that, as a matter of fact. We, as Americans, we really do love to get our hands dirty. It's just inbred in us, right? We like to build things. It's just who we are.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many entrepreneurs. There's more entrepreneurs in this country than there's anywhere else in the world. Well, you can't build anything if you can't get supplies. So I'd like to see a little more manufacturing come back. And again, business credit's a key to that, right? So you got to have the business credit. And I think that's going to happen. I really do. I think we're going to end up with a situation where we have no access to the supplies we need, and there's going to be a revolt. And I don't mean like revolt, like violent revolt.
Right,
I'm just talking about a mental revolt.
Right.
You probably remember this.
I think we even saw a little bit of that even at the beginning of the pandemic when supplies were short on critical supplies on some things to be able to ramp up a remediation with a pandemic. And we weren't manufacturing this stuff in our country anymore. It was all offshore. We've delegated it out, and that kind of put us in a pinch. And so I knew exactly when you're like, we need to domesticate more our manufacturing capability. Yes, we've already kind of learned that lesson a little bit, and we need to bring stuff home here.
Well, it's funny. If you know history, people say, the downfall of the Roman Empire. Here's exactly what the downfall was. They outsourced everything to other countries that they had conquered. So the other countries got rich off of the outsourcing and were able to take down the Roman Empire.
Yep.
They had all their money, and everybody in Rome was lazy.
Yep.
Right? They were enjoying themselves. I'm not trying to get political. I'm just saying I just see that happening. I've seen it happening since. Look, I used to print for Walmart. I used to print things for Walmart. Okay. And back then, everything in Walmart was made in the USA. Do you remember that? That was their shtick.
Yeah.
It was made in the USA. My father-in-law was a World War II vet, only bought from Walmart because everything they sold was made in the USA. Go into Walmart today.
Yeah.
Try and find one item made in the USA. Try and find more than one. Try and find two. Good luck. So I think that's important. And why I don't feel bad about saying that, actually gets me a little excited. I know who we are, Americans, and we just love to build things. So I just know it's going to come back. I know it's going to go full circle. right? So anyway, that's what kind of what I see coming, and I just have a feeling we're going to have a humming decade after this. If somebody gets this inflation under control,
right.
You can't keep printing money either.
All right, that's good. I'm on board with that. I like that prognostication. All right, so here we are. We're down what we call the bottom of the ninth. All right, and this is a time in the show here. I should have a little soundbite for that. Bottom of the ninth. There we are. What advice do you have, Steve, for what we would call the rookies in the game? You know, these folks who are either just starting out, they want to start out in their own business and are looking for some guidance. What kind of words do you have for those guys?
I would say this. I would 100%, if not a mentor, don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't even be afraid to talk to your competition. Ask somebody who's been there and done that before you, because you're going to make mistakes anyway. Why not eliminate the obvious ones that somebody else has walked down that same road, right? So I told you in the beginning, my partner was in his 60s.
Right.
That was intentional. And we had a board of directors. We're a little tiny company. We had a board of directors. One of our board of directors was a lawyer, an accountant, director of a hospital, an FBI agent, a former FBI agent. So there was a reason for that, because we didn't want to make dumb mistakes.
Right.
That may not have looked dumb to us because we didn't know any better. But so find a mentor, find somebody to talk to. Don't be afraid to go to experts like yourself. I know nothing about digital marketing. If I was going to go into business today, I would reach out to a digital marketing firm, because I know that's the way of the world today.
Right.
That's
more nuggets of gold. Thank you for that softball as well. Yes, give me a call. All right. Listen, Steve, it's just been so great talking with you. You've got such great experience and wisdom, and I'm sure you can help just many, many small business owners out there help build that business credit profile. If you want to connect with Steve, giving some free consultation, look for the link in our show notes, or you can go to creditsuite.com/contact-us, and you can connect with Steve there. Also, Steve has got a book. Go check that out. Business Credit, the complete step-by-step guide. You can get that on Amazon or on online at any of the other great bookstores as well. Steve, it's just been so fun talking with you. Great Phillies fan, great business guru here, so that's good.
I got to go back in my closet and see if I can find a Quakers jersey.
That's good. That's good. Well, listen, again, thanks, Steve, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, Randy, it was my pleasure. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, very good. All right, so that's the ball game, folks. Hey, thanks for joining us today. And if you liked our show, please tell your friends and subscribe and review. And as we like to say, we'll see you around the ballpark. Running the Bases with Small Businesses is brought to you by 38 Digital Market, a digital marketing agency committed to client growth with lead generation, higher conversions, and increased sales. Connect with us today at 38digitalmarket.com.